Central Oklahoma, the center of Tornado Alley. Year-round, Oklahoma residents are on constant alert for any incoming severe weather. From the first signs of spring to the onset of winter, there is no true tornado off-season. The state has bore witness to some of the most destructive tornado outbreaks ever documented. May 24th, 2011 was one such day. Several strong supercells would wreak havoc in central Oklahoma. Numerous violent tornadoes would track through the region, including one EF5 that would tear through areas near the towns of El Reno and Piedmont. These twisters would leave 18 dead and hundreds more injured. By sunset, the day would go down as one of the most prolific tornado outbreaks in history. Today, we will tell its story. Every tornado outbreak, no matter how large or how small, first began to take shape days in advance. Every day, meteorologists combed through hundreds of computer models, looking for signs of any imminent severe weather. The same was true in the days leading up to the 24th. The signs were there. Synoptically, a lot was going on across the lower 48. A surface cyclone was moving through Minnesota, bringing with it a round of severe weather for portions of the plains and Midwest. In fact, it was this system that caused the infamous Joplin EF5. In the desert southwest, a ridge was in place, causing the air across the region to become well mixed. This ample mixing of the atmosphere would prove very critical for the outbreak. Over the next day or so, the aforementioned low continued to move northeast and weaken as better moisture returned in central Oklahoma. Additionally, a 500 millibar trough would move inland and begin advecting the well-mixed air over the desert southwest eastward into southern Kansas through northern Texas. By 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time on the 24th, the trough had attained a negative tilt. Negatively tilted troughs generally advect richer moisture given stronger southerly flow beneath them, and additionally provide more upper-level diffluence. This trough was no different, as abundant upper-level diffluence was in place. In addition, a well-defined dry line was observed in far western Oklahoma through central Texas. Storm relative motion vectors were angled half perpendicular to the dry line, leading to a strong possibility of long-lived supercells. In response, the SPC issued a high risk for the area, mostly for the threat of strong, long-tracked tornadoes. For most of the day, the skies remained clear as a stout capping inversion maintained in the atmosphere, preventing storms from firing. Moisture was not a concern, as even by the morning of the 24th, low 60-degree dew points were already in place across much of central Oklahoma. As the surface low deepened, even richer moisture was advected northwards. Additionally, the low-level jet gradually ramped up throughout the day, creating abundant wind shear. Cape values had already risen to nearly 3,000 joules per kilogram, and were still climbing, meaning that there was plenty of energy in place in the atmosphere to fuel storms throughout the day. With the ingredients for a major tornado outbreak in place, the Storm Prediction Center upgraded the tornado risk to an extremely rare 45% significant risk, with an extreme 60% significant hail risk. Shortly afterwards, the dry line would begin to move into southern Kansas, western Oklahoma, and north-central Texas. By 12:50 p.m., a PDS tornado watch had been issued for all of central Oklahoma, as well as northern Texas, noting a high likelihood of strong tornadoes. By 1:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, large-scale ascent from the upper-level effluents had caught up with the dry line, and convection was beginning to fire. For the first hour or so, the storms remained elevated as the cap had not fully eroded yet. As such, the predominant threat was large, damaging hail. However, the cap began to completely erode, and the day's first tornado would touch down at around 3:10 p.m. Central Daylight Time, near Lamar, Colorado. The tornado was very weak and short-lived, only attaining an EF0 classification. However, in central Oklahoma, things were rapidly ramping up. At 3 p.m., Doppler radar indicated a supercell with a well-defined hook echo nearing the town of Canton, Oklahoma. By 3:20 p.m., a tornado had touched down about 3 miles west of town and was tracking to the northeast. The tornado steadily intensified, damaging several trailer homes and trees. 2 injuries would occur at the Canadian campground as several campers took shelter inside a concrete bathroom as the tornado approached Canton Lake. While crossing the lake, a strong velocity couplet associated with the twister would be noted on radar, suggesting the twister was packing intense winds as it moved through the area. As the tornado crossed into Major County, it would damage several homesteads, power poles, and trees. The twister attained a high-end EF3 rating as it destroyed these structures, significantly damaging one farmstead where the peak damage would occur. It would go on to lift to the southwest of Fairview, Oklahoma, after being on the ground for roughly 20 minutes. The tornado would take the life of 1 person in a vehicle along its 13.2-mile-long path. This cell and the one to its south would subsequently run into a region with a stronger capping inversion and less favorable thermodynamics, resulting in them both quickly dissipating, ending their ability to produce strong tornadoes. However, farther south, several other supercells were beginning to develop. One of these supercells was approaching the town of Lookeba, Oklahoma. At 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, a tornado would touch down about 5.25 miles west of Lookeba, moving generally northeast. The tornado would mangle several trees, attaining an EF3 rating before lifting near the Caddo-Canadian County border. While this tornado was intense and produced rather impressive damage to what little it did hit, it was only a small taste of what was to come. Just minutes after the Lookeba tornado had lifted, a new tornado was making its way to the ground roughly 4 miles northwest of Niles, Oklahoma. The tornado rapidly intensified, soon becoming violent, destroying several trees, most of which were completely debarked. Around this time, RAXPOL, or Rapid X-band Polarimetric Radar, was beginning to sample the tornado as it crossed Interstate 40 near Calumet, as radar would detect winds of 295 miles per hour, only 72 feet above the ground. Down on the surface, dozens of cars along the busy interstate would be impacted by the tornado. 3 people would lose their lives in this area. 50-year-old Terry Peoples, 71-year-old Don Wesley Krug, and 67-year-old Joan Krug. They were fleeing from the tornado when it struck their vehicles, fleeing them thousands of feet from the road. Other vehicles would be impacted along the interstate as well, their drivers thankfully escaping with their lives, though not without any trauma. One truck driver would survive with only minor injuries after his semi was flipped by the twister's winds a short distance down the road from those who died. As the tornado continued northeast towards the town of El Reno, 16-year-old Miranda Bouchard and 22-year-old Austin Hall would lose their lives. Both of them were also in vehicles when the twister struck. While still just north of I-40, the tornado would strike the Cactus 117 oil rig. The rig weighed in at nearly 2 million pounds, and, at the time, the rig's drill was deep inside its borehole. Despite the rig's impressive structural integrity, it wouldn't be able to withstand the tornado. As the twister struck, the rig would be toppled on its side and subsequently rolled several times. Its blowout preventer would be bent in a nearly 30-degree angle. 12 workers were on site when the tornado struck, sheltering in an adjacent steel change house. The structure was tied down by 4 steel cables, anchored 5.5 feet in the ground. Despite one of the cables snapping and the change house being dented by flying debris, all 12 workers survived the ordeal without injury. After destroying the rig, the tornado continued northeast and would impact an industrial complex consisting of a scrapyard, garage, repair shop, and a grain storage facility. The repair shop, garage, and farmhouse were damaged beyond repair. Debris from the scrapyard went on to impact a new natural gas processing plant, causing a major gas leak that was not sealed until nightfall. After impacting these structures, the twister would impact the El Reno Mesonet station, where a wind gust of 151 miles per hour was recorded, becoming the highest wind speed ever recorded in the state of Oklahoma. Around this time, the tornado would cross US 81. Local storm chasers would catch the tornado on film as it crossed through the area, narrowly avoiding a hit from the twister's violent vortex.
Okay, go back to David's stream. Back to David's stream. David, you're still with us? We got your stream.
We're in the RFD.
See the tornado.
Oh my God! Are we moving? Dude, it's right here. We're moving. Dude, we're moving. And I have a foot on brakes. What the heck?
Dude,
oh, no,
it's right here. Dude, we have to back up. We have to back up.
We can't.
Back up.
Right here. Look at the west tornado. I'm gonna turn the camera around. It's gonna be right in the center of the
Here, Eddie.
screen.
Videotape.
Just turn around. Turn around.
Right here as long as I can.
Turn around.
Backing up. We're okay.
Look at the stream, Mike. Look at the stream. Take the stream. Unbelievable. It's gonna be another. It's a stovepipe. Stovepipe tornado. Southwest of me. I'm at Hefner Road.
Oh my God.
On Hefner Road, 1 mile east. 1 mile east of Highway. See the tornado in the picture?
Yes, we can see it. The tornado's turning more to the
Am I
right.
okay behind me?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
22nd Memorial Road. We're talking about
Can I go further back?
Yeah.
Dylan, you gotta tell me.
Dylan.
Frisco Cemetery Road. From Hander to 122nd Memorial.
Dude, we would have gotten hit there.
I know.
Debris ball. It's
That truck's
backed up on the
still-
south, crossing 81 right now. Go, Dave.
All right, Mike, again, it's across the field. It's coming right at me in the stream. It's coming right at me. I'm pouring. Look at the power flashes. It's going to be an EF3. EF3. And I'm going to have to think about getting out of here in about 30 seconds.
Keep going, man.
It's coming at me. Mike, it's starting to shrink a little bit. It's still
I'm okay still, right?
Now we're
Keep
fine.
looking, Dylan.
Yes,
Keep
we are
looking.
so
Look at
fine.
debris crossing the road. Dylan, you gotta tell me about it. You see that? Power flash behind the truck.
EF3, this thing is moving to my...
It's still right there.
After passing El Reno to the northwest, the tornado would continue to produce intermittent EF4 damage. During this time, a couple of satellite tornadoes would be observed, including one that would merge with the primary parent tornado. As the twister approached the town of Piedmont, several homes would be leveled, and extreme ground scouring would be documented, common signs of a violent tornado. While missing Piedmont to the north, the twister would impact several subdivisions in rural Kingfisher County. Among these would be the Falcon Lake subdivision. Here, additional violent damage would be documented, with several well-built homes having all of their exterior walls removed, with a few homes even being completely leveled. It was in one of these homes where 2 fatalities would be documented. 3-year-old Ryan Hamil and 15-month-old Cole Hamil would both perish in the storm. As the twister approached, they had huddled together with their pregnant mother, Catherine, and their 5-year-old sister, Kathleen, in their home's bathtub. Their father, Hank, was on his way home from work. They could hear the growing roar of the tornado as it slowly approached, before the electricity went out. The last thing Catherine heard before the twister struck was her oldest son, Ryan, saying that it was dark now. Mere seconds later, they found themselves in the middle of the tornado's raging vortex. With all her might, Catherine held on to her children as their home was torn apart around them. But the tornado's winds would prove too strong in the end. All 4 of them would be torn out of the tub and thrown into the adjacent field. Search and rescuers would descend upon their subdivision shortly after the tornado passed. They'd find Cole, Catherine, and Kathleen, but there was no sign of Ryan. The 3 they had found would be rushed to the hospital. Catherine and Kathleen would be rushed to surgery. Cole would battle as hard as his little body could, but in the end, the tornado would claim his life. Hank Hamil would return home later that day to find his entire life turned upside down. His home was flattened, the only thing left standing being the bathtub where his family had been sheltering. While Catherine and Kathleen would ultimately survive their injuries, there was still no sign of Ryan. A days-long search would ensue for the child, a search that would ultimately end 2 days later, when his body was found next to a nearby pond.
Hello, I'm Hank Hamil, and we found my other son this morning, Ryan. He was floating in the water on the west side of the lake, and just want to thank everybody for helping and being there. Yeah. It's a bad deal. I lost both my boys. I was hoping we'd find Ryan today. Ryan was my little buddy. Cole was too. I love them both. I just want to thank everybody again for helping all they've done. Thanks.
As the tornado was impacting their subdivision, storm chasers to the south would capture the storm on video. Note the tornado's extreme motion as it traversed through the Oklahoma countryside.
The National Weather Service in Norman has issued a tornado
Whoa!
northeastern Canadian county.
Look at there's a satellite one on the left.
Southeastern Logan County in central Oklahoma. Northern Oklahoma County in central Oklahoma. Until 5:43 now, moving east at 30 miles an hour. Locations in the warning include Arcadia, Edmond, El Reno, Jones, Lake Luma, Luther, Nichols Hills, northern Oklahoma City, Piedmont, Richland, the Village, and War Acres. This includes Interstate 35 between mile markers 133 and 151. This includes Interstate 44 between mile markers 127 and 1 duration.
Holy cow.
This large and destructive tornado, take cover immediately. A basement or storm shelter is best. Otherwise, take cover in an interior closet or bathroom away from outside walls and windows. Cover your head with pillows and blankets.
There's a little one, yeah.
Nichols Hills, northern Oklahoma City, Piedmont, Richland, western section of it.
Away from Piedmont here, coming up on Piedmont on the southern side of Piedmont.
Now I think it took a right turn, like right at us.
If you're in Piedmont right now, you need to be taking your immediate tornado precautions right now. This is a life and death situation. Power flashes, 2 power flashes crossing the highway. Large, violent wedge tornado crossing the highway right now. Heading towards the Piedmont area. If you're in Piedmont, you need to be taking...
As the tornado moved through Kingfisher and Logan counties, it would begin a gradual weakening trend. However, the tornado would remain significant for quite some time. Several houses in the rural portions of these counties would suffer EF2 or EF3 damage. Numerous trees would continue to be debarked as well, while a strong velocity couplet would maintain itself on radar. As the twister passed by the village of Canton, the tornado would claim its final pair of lives. 64-year-old Billy Leeper and 58-year-old Sharon Dodd, both of whom were caught outside without shelter when the tornado struck. The tornado would produce its final area of EF3 damage in between the hamlets of Seward and Cedar Valley, before finally lifting as it clipped the northern edge of the city of Guthrie. The Reno-Piedmont tornado would attain a final rating of EF5, with maximum estimated winds exceeding 210 miles per hour. Widely considered to be one of the strongest tornadoes ever documented, it killed 9 individuals along its 65-mile-long path. As the Reno-Piedmont tornado was passing to the north of El Reno, a cell to its south was just beginning to organize. Over the next 20 to 30 minutes, the cell would merge with another to its south. Just 10 minutes after the merger concluded, the cell would produce a tornado. This tornado would touch down along the I-44 corridor in southern Chickasha, and would begin producing EF2 damage on the southeastern side of the city, damaging mobile homes and other structures. As the tornado passed through the city, it would be observed by several onlookers from within town, among them John Wood, the owner of Next Door Liquor. He told the Express Star in a later interview that he looked out the window and saw what he initially thought was a large flock of birds. It was only after staring at it for a few seconds that he noticed that what he was seeing wasn't birds, but rather a cloud of debris circulating around a quickly maturing tornado. Home after home in the city would be impacted, including several mobile homes. It was in one of these mobile homes that the tornado's only fatality would occur. Laren Short was 24 years old when the twister tore through the Watson Mobile Home Park. A recent graduate of the University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma, she had just returned from a stint of living in Melbourne, Australia, and was visiting her grandmother in the mobile home park when the storm blew in. With no sturdy shelter nearby, Laren was forced to ride out the storm in a mobile home. A storm she ultimately wouldn't survive. As the tornado crossed US Highway 62, it would rapidly intensify into an EF4, completely destroying a couple of homes. The tornado would also widen at this time, soon reaching a width of half a mile wide. The tornado would continue moving northeast, producing EF3 damage as it destroyed a series of houses and completely debarked several trees. The tornado would once again intensify as it crossed the Grady County line. It was around here where the tornado likely reached its peak intensity. Here, several 200-mile-per-hour damage indicators would be noted by National Weather Service damage surveyors, the highest possible rating a tornado can get without attaining an EF5 rating. Among them being a couple of well-built homes that were completely swept off their foundations, as well as a unique concrete dome house that received considerable damage, largely due to flying debris. Nearby, entire fields would have the top layer of soil scoured from the earth, leaving behind only red dust and mud where grass once was. Cars would be mangled beyond recognition, while trees would see incredible debarking. Some rural roads would see their asphalt torn up and thrown, damage only seen in some of the most violent tornadoes ever documented. Around this time, the twister would assume a more northerly path, reaching the H.E. Bailey Turnpike, where another house would be entirely destroyed, before resuming a northeasterly path once more. The tornado would begin a general weakening trend as it approached the south side of Newcastle, where the tornado would begin to start an occlusion process. This occurs when the supercell's RFD, or rear flank downdraft, cuts off the warm inflow channel for a tornado. This process caused the tornado to turn abruptly northwards into Newcastle, inflicting EF2 damage to several structures within town. Just after crossing into Cleveland County, the tornado would do a rare loop, before dissipating 5 miles west-southwest of the city of Moore, ending a 32-mile-long path of destruction. Just 30 minutes after the Chickasha tornado would touch down, yet another supercell to the south would produce a tornado near the town of Bradley, Oklahoma. Similar to the previous tornadoes of the day, the twister would quickly begin producing EF2 to EF3 damage, mainly to trees and other foliage. As the tornado crossed into McLean County, it would begin to rapidly intensify. As it neared State Highway 76, the tornado would impact 3 homes at low-end EF4 strength. After crossing the aforementioned highway, the tornado would level several well-built structures, the damage later being given a high-end EF4 rating. The tornado maintained at least mid-EF4 classification until it reached 180th Street, where a weakening trend was observed. However, the tornado would remain strong to intense, with damage in this area mainly being classified in the EF2 and EF3 range. The tornado would maintain this intensity for several miles until it neared the State Highway 3959 intersection, where it would once again begin producing mid to high-end EF4 damage. sweeping a couple of homes off their foundations and completely destroying several others, as it impacted a pocket of houses near the community of Woody Chapel. As the tornado continued northeastward towards the town of Washington, it would maintain high-end EF4 intensity, while its vortex would grow narrower and narrower, soon taking on a drill bit appearance before directly impacting a large, well-built home. This home would be completely destroyed, all debris that had previously made up the structure removed from the foundation and thrown into adjacent fields. The dirt around the home would be completely scoured, grass in certain areas completely torn out of the ground, leaving nothing but a muddy mess. Damage surveyors would give the structure a 200-mile-per-hour EF4 rating, just like the Chickasha tornado before it, avoiding an EF5 rating partially due to the presence of a fence post next to the house that hadn't been knocked down by the tornado. After this point, the tornado would quickly weaken as it moved almost due north, just outside of the town of Goldsby. While damage in the final minutes of the tornado's life would prove to be primarily minor, it would have one final bout of strong intensity in it, completely destroying the house of the Washington High School football coach at EF3 intensity. Seconds after, the tornado would lift, putting an end to its 23-mile-long path of terror. Remarkably, despite the tornado's intensity, it would kill nobody. Later that night, the same storm system would move into portions of eastern Arkansas. At around 12 a.m. Central Daylight Time, a tornado would touch down to the south of the town of Branch, before moving southeast. The tornado would begin producing EF1 damage to mainly trees, maintaining this intensity for quite some time. The tornado would not intensify too much until it approached the town of Etna. Here, the twister would damage several homes at EF3 intensity, including one at EF4 strength. One fatality occurred here after a mobile home was completely destroyed. An additional home would be struck at EF4 intensity in this area as well. Thankfully, both residents were sheltering in the kitchen pantry and miraculously survived the ordeal. The tornado maintained EF3 intensity as it crossed the Arkansas River and re-entered Franklin County. As the tornado entered the town of Denning, it killed another person in a mobile home and injured 10 more, one of whom died 3 weeks later. Here, a young girl named Piper would be blown out of her family's home and thrown down the street, but would survive, while the trailer she had called home was completely demolished with her mother in it, the woman later losing her life. EF3 damage was recorded throughout much of Denning before the tornado exited the town. The twister subsequently moved into Johnson County, where it moved into the community of Center Point. The tornado would damage several residences in town and would kill a 31-year-old woman who was sheltering in a mobile home. The tornado then entered the Ozark National Forest, dealing minor damage to the town of Ozone, before lifting further northeast amidst the thick forest. The twister was on the ground for an astounding 45 miles, and took the lives of 4 people. As the sun began to rise on the morning of May 25th, the full scale of the destruction left behind by the tornadoes became apparent. Dozens of communities were devastated. A total of 16 people were dead, and tens of millions of dollars in damage had been dealt to a vast portion of the American heartland. Volunteers from around the country would descend upon the region to help those impacted by the tornadoes begin the rebuilding process, a process that would take years to end. All the while, the deeper wounds, the non-physical ones, were beginning to slowly heal as well. Several months after the death of Ryan and Cole, the Hamil family were still trying to get their lives back on track. After numerous surgeries and medical appointments, both Catherine and Kathleen were just beginning to readjust to their surroundings. Devastated by the loss of the 2 boys, it was hard for life to return to normal. But they, with the help of the family patriarch Hank, knew that they had to keep going. For themselves, for those around them, and for their unborn baby. As stated earlier, Catherine was pregnant when the twister struck. Despite the injuries she suffered in the storm, her unborn child survived the ordeal. A few months after, she would give birth to a healthy baby girl. They would name her Hannah. In the years since, the family has been blessed with 2 more children, both boys, Matthew and Nathan. In a 2016 interview, Hank Hamil noted the similarities between the boys and their 2 late brothers. Matthew loves cows, loves his boots, and Ryan did too, he said. Nathan too, he reminds us of both of them. Pictures of Ryan and Cole, as well as artifacts from their childhoods recovered after the storm, line the walls in the Hamil residence. Reminders of the 2 wonderful lives taken from the world on that fateful day. The family still goes out of their way to visit the cemetery where they visit the boys once a month, keeping their memories alive for themselves and for their children, who will never get to know their 2 brothers. The family has dealt with plenty of grief, but through the power of their faith and with each other's help, they've been able to overcome it. In a 2021 interview marking the 10-year anniversary of the twister, Catherine Hamil would state, in reference to grief, that grief is something that is hard. Everyone handles it differently. I think it has to do with your faith, your experiences, and how you cope with things in general, she'd say. We believe in heaven, and we know they are at peace, so we want to be at peace. We know they do not want us to cry all the time, but if we do cry, I'm sure they understand, because it is human nature to be sad. Since the tornado, the family has built a new home in the nearby town of Cashin. It has a tornado shelter, an addition the family insisted on having when the new house was being built. Outside their home, 2 crosses stand, paying tribute to the 2 members of their family the tornado took that day in 2011. In the days and weeks following the storms, countless individuals would dedicate themselves to helping their communities recover. Among them was Chickasha Assistant Chief of Police G.G. Music Jr., who spent a total of 36 hours on duty after the tornado, helping search and rescue efforts in his community, and coordinating debris cleanup. The only sleep he got during this time was on the floor of the fire station's dispatch office for a couple of hours. Alongside him were the dozens of National Weather Service employees who worked night and day to provide those on the ground with fast and reliable warnings that likely saved many lives. However, NWS meteorologists have made it clear since that day that they don't deserve all the credit for the relatively low number of deaths recorded on the 24th. A later paper authored by Weather Service employees would credit the astounding response from those on the ground, their willingness to heed warnings and take shelter, and their quick reaction times, as the primary factors behind the lack of more fatalities. A report we can all be thankful for. In the decade plus since the outbreak, Oklahoma has continued to be the site of rampant severe weather. Every spring brings more of the same. Dozens, even hundreds of tornadoes. But those impacted by the May 24th outbreak know how dangerous these twisters can be. Believe them, they've experienced their fury firsthand. The memories of those who they lost on that day remain with each and every survivor, and they carry their memories everywhere they go. Through memorial services and efforts to keep community members safe in the event of future disasters, these victims live on, indirectly helping to prevent future deaths and disasters by fueling the actions of those who survived them. While several intense tornadoes have impacted the state of Oklahoma since, and even impacted areas struck by some of the May 24th tornadoes, none of these outbreaks have rivaled the intensity and scale of that spring 2011 tornado outbreak. It leaves behind a strong legacy, a legacy that to this day remains with those on the wide open plains of Oklahoma. It serves as a reminder of how destructive Mother Nature can be, and just how quickly she can take everything away. This has been Overcast. Thank you for watching.